Hey, everybody, we're back today with another look at the 1970s. We're going to look at comedy films. We're each going to pick our top five. I'm here with Brian, AYBL Maine. Check his channel out. Sub him up if you haven't already. Doc is here. Both my movie partners. We've been doing this for 5 decades now. This is our fifth decade of movies that we've done. We've done this over the past few months. If you haven't checked out our 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, do so, please leave comments. And now we're going to look at the 70s, which is our favorite decade, I think. The most quality films head to toe. So, Brian, or Doc, you're going to start out with your top five comedies of the 70s.
Yeah, this is the comedies in the
fun.
70s, man. This was a tough one. And this is
rough.
there was a gamut to choose from on this one, man. This had a load of great comedy movies. So narrowing it down to five was pretty difficult, but I'm pretty happy with the five I ended up with. So we'll just jump in. So
Yep.
I'm starting off with number five with The Jerk as number five. None of these movies are going to win Oscars, I'll tell you this. So,
It just makes me laugh thinking about The Jerk, you know?
Juggling the cats. That's just awesome.
Stay away from the cans. Stay away from the cans. Nathan Johnson, Steve Martin. There's nothing special about this movie in a lot of ways, man. It's just a really, shall we say, not quite with it kind of character. The Jerk is Steve Martin. He plays it to a T.
Mhm.
There's a lot of things wrong with this movie politically, especially these days compared to what it was when it came out. So, and we might find that pop up later on when I mention another movie anyway. So, but it's just, let's just say things were a little bit more relaxed in different ways, how they went about their comedy back in the 70s. I still find it quite humorous if you get past all that stuff. It's The Jerk is, it's got some slapstick in it. It's pretty dry at sometimes, but the humor that Steve Martin is in the whole movie, and he's pretty funny throughout the whole movie. So The Jerk is, kind of like a staple in the 70s for me, is one of the comedies of that era. So that's my number five.
Okay.
My number four is, man, these top four were really tough to put in order. Holy cow. My number four is The Holy Grail, Monty Python. I like British humor too, man. So it's Monty Python could have had a couple in here if you want the truth. So you could have leaned either way. I went with Holy Grail. I do like Life of Brian as well, but there's just a couple extra too many classic scenes in The Holy Grail that are just over the top. I mean, it is stupid comedy in that movie. I mean, there is no horses, but the sound of horses travels with you throughout the whole movie. It's just the Monty Python gang. You know, these guys are very talented and very funny, and they did it for a lot of years. And The Holy Grail is, I'm going to find that these top four are somewhat classics, comedy movies to me. It's personal. The Holy Grail is just going after the Holy Grail and Sir Lancelot and all these different knights, and how they get there. And
it is a hugely quoted movie as well.
Totally.
A lot of people make quotes from that movie. It's crazy the amount of people.
You could scene pick and watch that movie and laugh your ass off if you wanted, to be honest with you. So Holy Grail is kind of a classic to me. But my number three goes into Mr. Blutowski's 0.0 Animal House at number three. I don't know what I can say about this one, man. This is the great college comedy movie ever to me. It's just classic. Belushi is, the guy driving the boat on this one here, and it's with his character, but a lot of good actors came out of this movie too. So Animal House, there's nothing, this is just college students being, sorority guys that are going to get kicked out of school, and they're just partying all the time, way too much, and that's what the movie is about. I mean, that's the storyline on it. So obviously, that when this was written, everybody was smoking and drinking when this thing was being done anyway. So this is and it shows in the movie, but it's freaking hilarious. Animal House is pretty much a classic. If you haven't seen Animal House, you should watch Animal House. Absolutely. For that era. That's out of my era or my time frame.
Yep.
Early 50s. This is my age, and this is a classic. So number 2 is definitely the politically incorrect movie, Blazing Saddles. So I mean, I can see this being number 1 too for some people if they wanted it to. But yes, everything wrong with this movie is what makes it almost funny in one sense. I mean, this is I mean, I don't even know what you say, man. It's like, Gene's in this movie. It's a Mel Brooks movie. And I just love everything about it. I mean, the characters in this movie and just the script behind it and everything else, and Slim Pickens and all these. Another one, you could quote a whole bunch of one-liners in this movie. And,
Yes.
If you're a fan of this movie, you'll know exactly what's being talked about every time you hear it too. So, and some of those one-liners you cannot quote all the time. So it's just the way it is. But Blazing Saddles. I don't even know what to say about this movie, man. I mean, it's the black sheriff coming into town and how he's not wanted and everything else. And the comedy of things that go with it. Gene Wilder is quite funny in this movie, man. And
he is good.
Sure.
If you want to laugh your ass off, watch Blazing Saddles.
Watch Blazing Saddles. It's an hour and a half of a pretty good laugh, man. You won't stop. But my number 1, it's a personal number 1 for me, and it's could have went to sports, but it didn't. So it is Slapshot. So
nice.
This is Newman. So Newman's number 1 on the list here. So this is definitely not a role anybody probably thought they'd see Newman in, for sure. Because the language and everything else in this movie is just really atrocious for what it is. You want to talk about hockey language and stuff in this movie? They don't hold back. In fact, I think it's written by a woman. This movie, who actually I think is based. If you remember the movie or if you watch the movie, the guy's name is Ogie Oglethorpe, who's one of the guys that are coming out that they actually have to, is going to fight everybody when they meet the next team and stuff like that. But it's Ogie Oglethorpe's sister in real life who wrote the script. So that's who that Nancy Dowd is. So that's
so she knew the game inside out, right?
She knew the game, man. She knew the
minor league hockey, especially.
Yeah. Canadian boy, love my hockey. This is right up my alley, man. This is Slapshot's a comedy classic. I don't know what else to say this, man. It's definitely one of my all-timers.
It's hard to beat.
Good.
Yeah.
What do you think, Brian? Do you have any of those 5 on your list?
I've got 3 of those will be actually mentioned later, believe it or not. They'll be mentioned later. That's where we're at. And one of his was number 7 on my list.
Okay.
So I mean we could have hit easily.
Yeah, man, it was close.
What kind of mood I was in at the moment,
Yeah.
So what I've got at number 5 is I've got Meatballs. It's one of my favorite Bill Murray movies.
Yeah.
But it's an offbeat, literally campy comedy. Got a bunch of misfit counselors who are running a camp for kids, and of course they're the poorer camp that goes up against the rich camp, and all the shenanigans that go on. A lot of it's sexual humor, inappropriate stuff. They're always picking on the head guy, always pulling a prank on him, putting his bed in the middle of the water, putting his bed high up in the
That's right.
all sorts of crazy stuff like that, but I think it's one of those movies I can watch, and it's not a big deal. The number 4 for me is the one I have a little bit of a story for, is that my wife gets me totally, so like sometimes things will start to transpire and she knows what I'm going to say before I even say it. But we literally pulled up right next to a biker gang while we were at a stoplight one time. And I rolled down my window and I said, "Hey, you guys looking for Philo Beto?" And nobody got the joke. My wife got the joke like that. Nobody else got the joke. They're looking at me like, what the hell is this guy talking about, right? Number 4 for me is Every Which Way But Loose.
Loose.
I love that movie. The cranky ma who's sitting on the porch acting like she just can't take care of herself. She's got this big, huge shotgun and she just rakes out on people. Clint Eastwood playing this, badass guy going around doing these amateur boxing things to earn money, and
That's right.
He's got his orangutan with him,
Orangutan,
you know, and his mom's always complaining that damn ape shits all over my yard. It's great. Everything about that movie is hilarious to me. The worst part about the movie, Sandra Locke. I never understood plugging her into all of his movies. It's never made any sense to me. Number 3 for me is Animal House. Doc's already mentioned it. Just one of those humors that's kind of a classic of the time. You know, sorority guys that take it to the extreme. Always trying to do, you know, literally using tomfoolery all the time on campus deans and killing horses. For some so it's just it's a classic. It's a Belushi classic. I don't know. I mean, some people will argue whether Blues Brothers or this is better. I mean, they're not the same movie in my mind.
Yeah, I'm taking Animal House all the way, baby.
Yeah, they're not the same movie. It's just not the same. So number 2 for me is we're going back with I'm going to go with some Burt. I got Smokey and the Bandit.
Oh yeah.
I got my Burt Reynolds and I got my Jackie Gleason, and there is nothing funnier than Jackie Gleason playing Buford Justice and Smokey and the Bandit. There is absolutely nothing funnier than that guy. Just the tirades that he will go off on when he's talking to people is just insanely funny, you know, and to know him from, you know, the other movies and the shows that he was in, you know, everything else, and you bring that into that movie. I thought it was great. I thought it was fantastic. So, but number 1 for me is don't ask me why. I love this movie. I always seek it out to watch it if I can. I'll pull it out of my tray so I can go watch it again. I love Cannonball Run.
Wow, fantastic movie.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic movie. I love this stuff where you have multiple people trying to achieve an objective.
Yeah.
And the shenanigans that go on between them. This has got Sammy Davis Jr. and Dean Martin playing Grease, right? Jackie Chan is in this movie.
That's right.
He's one of the Chinese guys in that car. You know, and then you've got the chemistry between Burt Reynolds and Dom DeLuise.
Yeah.
You can just watch the bloopers alone at the end of these movies, and that would be enough to say it's like one of the funniest movies of all time. Just the chemistry that those guys have. I think it's great. Roger Moore's in this playing.
That's right.
He's playing Roger Moore, right? There's a joke there, and nobody believes that he's Roger Moore.
That's right.
Right? That's kind of like the whole bit.
That's right.
He claims to be Roger Moore, and everybody thinks that he's lying, and he's actually Roger Moore, which ends up being that more of a joke. So
yeah,
that's what I got for number 1.
Wow, I didn't see that coming, but it's a good pick. I had only 2 of your 5 or 2 of Doc's 5, I forget. Anyway, we'll do the honorable mentions in a second. I'm going to run through my 5. Number 5, I have Blazing Saddles, the Mel Brooks classic, satirical Western black comedy. You got Mel Brooks playing several different roles here. He's playing a Yiddish-speaking Native American chief. You got Cleavon Little as the first black sheriff in Rock Ridge, I believe the name of the town is. Gene Wilder as the drunken gunfighter. He pulls that off flawlessly. Madeline Kahn, one of her best roles as Lily Von Stuck.
He's great.
The wonderful send up of Marlena Dietrich in the saloon. You know, are you happy to see me? Is that a 10-gallon hat? You know, whatever. I mean, she has all the lines doing the song and dance. Alex Karras, who punches out that horse. Bongo.
And my favorite thing is Slim Pickens in it. When they when he gets to the toll booth and he says, "God damn it, somebody's got to go back and get a shitload of dimes." I was like, that's just a great line.
Anytime I see Slim Pickens, it brings a smile to my face. You know, what a character actor. And of course, the classic campfire scene, eating the baked beans, hysterically funny. Just you can't help but laugh. They go so over the top on that scene. It's fantastic. Everything about that movie is funny. So if you want to laugh your butt off, that's the movie to see. Number 4 is another Mel Brooks movie. I went with Young Frankenstein. I just love this zany kind of spoof of the horror genre. Great cast. Again, Gene Wilder, Marty Feldman with the eyes going every which way. Terry Garr, Peter Boyle as Frankenstein the monster, Madeline Kahn again, Cloris Leachman, all these comedic actors. It's shot in black and white. They're having a great time. There's a bookshelf scene in there that I really like about, why don't you? I forget, the guy gets pinned in the bookshelf, putting on the Ritz with
Putting
Peter
on the
Boyle.
Ritz. I was getting ready to say
Putting on
that.
the Ritz, man.
He's up there.
Oh
He's up there dancing along. Gene Wilder owns this role of young Frankenstein. Marty Feldman, like I said, with the eyeballs. You can't make that
Fantastic.
stuff up.
Peter Boyle is
Yeah.
great too.
Peter Boyle. It's just fantastic fun. Mel Brooks, very, very talented person to come up with these ideas of the genres. The Western first with Blazing Saddles. He does the same thing with High Anxiety of the Hitchcock movies.
Mhm.
Very, very funny. And this is, of course, the monster movies and stuff. Number 3, I think we all had this at number 3, Animal House.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we hit on a trifecta in the middle at number 3. And like you said, Belushi owns this. I still maintain to this day, it's the funniest movie I've ever seen in the theater. Just uproarious laughter when I saw it. I was like 21 years old, I guess, when it came out. So it was just, everybody was, I went back and saw it the next day. It was so funny. Frat house humor. Of course, Belushi was already a star on Saturday Night
Yeah.
Live.
Kevin
And
Bacon, right?
This just catapulted him into the next level. You got the double secret probation, 7 years of college down the effing drain. I mean, he's like a lifer as a student. The horse scene with the chainsaw, they can't figure out a way to get the stiff horse out of the dean's office. Toga parties, come on.
Toga.
The food fights, just tremendous stuff. Belushi going down the cafeteria, filling his tray with all this food.
Oh God.
And I mean, he's eating food as he's going. He's stuffing it in his pockets. Just good slapstick humor. The parade at the end was hysterical. Tim Matheson as like the head of the frat guys. He's in the supermarket comparing a cucumber to a certain part of his anatomy to the dean's wife. and I'll leave it at that. Number 2, I went with American Graffiti as a comedy. Just a perfect little nostalgic look at the early 60s. It had its moments of laughter, directed by George Lucas, and an all-star cast. Richard Dreyfuss, Ron Howard, Cindy Williams, on and on. A lot of young people making their debut. Harrison Ford's in this movie. Wolfman Jack, of course. It's a great coming-of-age movie. And it inspired Happy Days, which would come out a couple of years later as a big hit for 10 years on TV with the Fonz and so forth. So this was influential in its own way. Sort of a mosaic of the 60s. You got these different characters going around the city, teenagers, you got cruising, early rock and roll, a great soundtrack, drag racing, there's flirting, there's a hamburger stand. It's pure Americana. Most people can find something relatable in this. It's a good slice of life movie, and I always enjoyed it. My number 1, though, this is a personal pick. It's Annie Hall, Woody Allen's best film. I love the movie. It's a romantic comedy. It's basically the rise and fall of a relationship. You've got a stand-up comedian, Woody Allen, meeting a nightclub singer, Diane Keaton. It's quirky. It's neurotic. Got the New York versus LA theme going. Very analytical. They both have their analysts that they go to and trying to figure out where the relationship's going wrong. And it's got all the stages of when you first meet somebody, the attraction, falling in love, and then slowly you watch it fade away. It's just a real smart screenplay by Woody. A lot of it's flashbacks too of how they met and his upbringing, being raised underneath a bumper car concession stand or whatever it was. He tells it better than I can.
In film class, we discussed it, is that it was groundbreaking because you had movies that were, but they would have cuts or fades within 5 to 8 seconds, usually in movies. He would have these long extended scenes where there would be more conversation and more emphasis on that.
Yeah,
and
I enjoy that.
Made it kind of more groundbreaking for that reason.
Yep, I can see that.
Yeah.
There's also a scene with them doing with them boiling lobsters, which is hilarious. The lobster gets out and killing a spider is another one. So there's all this neurotic kind of humor that Woody Allen excels at, and Diane Keaton was perfect for that role. Going on to some of the honorable mentions, do you guys have any that we haven't talked about? Because I got a bunch here.
I wanted to say that I had Annie Hall 6 and American Graffiti 8th.
Okay, so two
on
of
my
mine
list. So I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that. So
I had Life of Brian. I had Young Frankenstein, which you mentioned. I had Smokey and the Bandit on my list. Brian,
I
you
did
had
too.
that as well.
Yep.
And I had MASH.
I have MASH in a different category. I do have
I know.
Smokey and the Bandit. Smokey and the Bandit, I like better than Cannonball, but I can see why both would make your list. I also have Up in Smoke, the Cheech and Chong movie. The In-Laws with Alan Arkin and Peter Falk. Very, very funny.
yeah.
Heaven Can Wait, a Warren Beatty, Julie Christie, Goldie, or romantic comedy. 10 with Bo Derek and Dudley Moore. And I have more Woody Allen movies. Manhattan, Sleepers, Play It Again, Sam, and Love and Death. He made a lot of good movies in the 70s.
Yeah, I liked Bananas as well. I thought that was
Bananas
great.
is in the 70s as well.
Yeah, when Howard Cosell is up on that, he's on the steps and he's interviewing a guy who just got shot. He goes, "Sure, you just got shot. How do you feel?" And he's like, "Oh," he goes, "Well, that's understandable considering the circumstances."
Exactly. That's a good Cosell line. Yeah. Yeah. So there was a ton of really funny movies.
Comedies were good, man. Comedies were strong in the 70s.
Very strong. And even like Slapshot, like you had in the comedy, I have it in a different category. So we'll get to that. All right. So cool. Comedies, outstanding. We're going to wrap that up for now. We're going to be back next with horror, the dreaded horror category of 1970s. That should be a humdinger, so to speak. So for Brian and Doc, I'm Rich. Please give us again the comments, the likes, subscribe to the channel. Let us know what your top 10 comedies are and see if we have any differing opinions here, or if you're on board with some of the ones we picked. So we'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.